How to modify the language of an online Zoom webinar's interpretation. As soon as you enter the webinar, you will see an interpretation button in the bottom right corner of the window. You can choose and switch to the language you want to listen to by clicking this icon, which will display all the languages that are available for interpretation. The interpretation audio will switch to the chosen language automatically when you choose languages like Spanish or French. Please be aware that pressing the off button will return you to the original audio without any interpretation.
My dear Go family, welcome to our very, very special Zoom meeting with a very, very special person. I mean, most of you guys who are right now with us on this Zoom call, they know already why they're here. They know already who they're going to see. But let me introduce this gentleman the proper way. Now, for me, he's one of the best and the biggest motivational speakers ever walked on this planet. And I believe he's an author of about 80 books, 80 books, translated in about 12 languages. And most of the books are best-selling books around the globe. He has been training and speaking in front of millions of people. And he was the personal coach of thousands upon thousands of people, helping them succeed in life and in business when it comes to, motivation, when it comes to self-development, when it comes to business development, leadership. And we are very, very happy to have this gentleman today with us on this Zoom call. And let me also point out, we don't just bring people like him to the Zoom calls, to our platform, just for the sake of having them. We want to provide you the best education, the best training, the best coaching ever for you to be able to build your business the right way. Because you do not forget that this business is all about personal development. It's all about who you are, how you connect to people around you, how they perceive you, how they see you. Because all of that has a direct effect on who are you going to attract to your business. So working on personal development is one of the most important things if you want to be successful in this industry, network marketing, especially in our company, Go Global. And I am very, very privileged and happy to have him today on our Zoom. So let's start and let's welcome together Brian and Tracy.
Thank you very much for that introduction. And I promise you that the time that we spend together is going to be some of the most valuable time in your entire life. When I started off my career, I came from a family that didn't have very much money, and I didn't do very well in school. I dropped out without completing high school, and the only job that I could get was washing dishes in the back of a small hotel. In fact, I started to think that washing was going to be in my career. Well, I lost that job, so I got a job washing cars in a car lot. And I lost that job. And lost is a euphemism for non-voluntary career redeployment, or getting fired. And so I got another job washing floors for the janitorial service. I thought, well, I might as well get used to washing things. But I lost that job, and I got a job in a sawmill. And then I got a job in the brush with a chainsaw, cutting down trees. And I got a job in a factory, stacking lumber, and I got another factory putting nuts on bolts, and I got a job on a ship in the North Atlantic and so on. But I only saw myself as doing laboring jobs. It never occurred to me I could do anything else. And then finally, there were no laboring jobs. I lost my last job, and the only thing I could do to eat, and eating is a wonderful motivation, by the way, the only thing I could do to eat was to sell stuff. And so I got a product that somebody asked me to sell, and I would knock on doors. And I would get up in the morning at 6 or 7 o'clock, and I would be out knocking on doors at 8 a.m., and I would knock on doors all day long until 8 p.m. or 9 p.m. I would go out and knock on home doors and apartment doors, and during the day I'd knock on office doors. And sometimes I would make 70 calls a day and do that 3 or 4 or 5 or an entire week and not make a single sale. I eventually made a sale and then had enough to eat and live for one more week. And it was very, very tight. I still remember my first sale, by the way. It was very important to me because I never forgot it. I had been out knocking on doors all week long, and it was the end of a long day. And I knocked on the door. It was 9:30 at night, and I was wrestling with myself. Should I go home to my little one-room apartment and go to sleep, or should I make one more call? And so I thought, well, I'm here, so I might as well make one more call. So I knocked on this door, and I said, "Hello, I'm Brian Tracy, and I'm selling this product." And husband and wife answered. I still see that now, all these years later. They said, "Oh, we were just talking about buying one of those products. Please come in." And I made my first sale. And that turned my life around. Later, I heard a wonderful story about a man like me who was in sales, and he was about to quit because he had not made any sales at all. And he got one more lead on the other side of town, had to drive almost an hour to get there. And he went to see the business owner, retail business, and the business owner said, I'm really not interested, don't want it, can't afford it, not in the market right now, things which you've heard many times. And so he walked out and he said, that's it, I'm done. And then he noticed that there was another store right next door. And he thought, well, I've come this far, I might as well go in there and talk to the owner and see if they're interested. So he walked in and he walked up to the owner, he said hello, and he introduced himself and his product. And the owner said, well, that's exactly what I've been thinking about buying right now. Please come in, sit down. And so he made his first real sale. And he walked out, he went back to the office, and he developed a motto. And I've used this all my life. And the motto was, one call more at the store next door. One call more at the store next door. He said he went on to be rich and successful and build a successful company and hire and train other people and so on. And he taught them all the same thing, persistence, persistence, never give up. One call more at the store next door. Now, I began to study success. And one of the characteristics I found, what is the most important characteristic of success that determines your failure or success more than any other factor? And the answer, going back more than 2,000 years, is self-discipline. It's self-discipline. And a brilliant man, Albert Hubbard, defined self-discipline as the ability to make yourself do what you should do, when you should do it, whether you feel like it or not. He said, it takes nothing to do it if you feel like it. It's easy. It's when you don't feel like it, and when you're tired and you're discouraged and you're disappointed and you have to get up early in the morning and you have to travel, and then you do it anyway, and you do the job and you complete the job. And this is really important. Task completion is the key to success in life. Not task working on or task getting started on, but not task positive resolutions, but starting and finishing the task every single time. That's the key to success. So I began to study success, and I found that there's a golden triangle of success in business. And the golden triangle is how I start many of my seminars. The first point of the golden triangle is for you to accept 100% responsibility for what you are and everything you become for the rest of your life. Now, only about 10 or 20% of people have reached the point of accepting responsibility. A good friend of mine said that there's a line in life, and before that line, you're a child. And as a child, you make excuses and you blame other people for your problems. You blame your parents because they did or didn't do something. You blame your spouse or your boss or something. But superior people don't blame anybody else. They say the magic words. Whenever they have a problem, they say, wait a minute, I am responsible. If I'm not happy with this situation, I'm responsible for changing this situation. And so you accept responsibility. The second part of the equation is setting goals. I was at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Washington, D.C., 2,500 people, big conference, black tie and everything else. And a man came up to me out of the crowd and he said, Mr. Tracy, Mr. Tracy, I've never seen him before. He said, you changed my life. You made me rich. You changed my life. You made me rich. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And Barbara and I were together and I said, well, what was it that helps you so much? And he smiled and he had this like a big Cheshire cat, had this big smile. He said, it was the goals. It was the goals. I had never heard about goals before I got your material. And when I began to set goals and work on my goals every day, it was like my life is going like this, and then it went straight up. Now, the reason I tell you this story is because, without exaggeration, over the years, I've heard that same story with the same words 1,000 times all over the world. I've spoken to more than 5 million people in 84 countries. I've written 90 books, and I have produced 1,000 audio and video learning programs. I was just doing a conference today and they said, where did you learn all of this stuff about professional selling? I told them the answer was, I studied it. I studied it and I studied it for 20 years. And not only did I study it, I went out and knocked on doors all day long. And then in the evenings and weekends, I would study the craft of selling. When I got into sales, I still remember this story. I knocked on doors, as many as 70 calls a day without making a sale. And then one day I came across this observation. It said, what one skill, if you developed and did it in an excellent fashion, would have the most positive impact on your sales? So I thought about that, and the answer was really clear: closing. I didn't know how to close a sale. I wasn't afraid to make calls. I used to run from place to place. I used to joke, so I could be rejected more often. And I would make my presentation full of enthusiasm and everything else. And at the end, the person would give me a big smile and say, well, that sounds pretty good. Let me think about it. Let me think it over. And why don't you call me back in a day, a week, a month, and I'll think about it in the meantime. And I used to think, I've made a sale. I'm just 1 inch away. They're going to think about it. And I didn't realize that the words, let me think about it, in customer speak, customer language, mean goodbye forever. We'll never meet again. We'll never talk. I'll never take your phone calls. If you call me, my secretary will tell you I'm in a meeting. Yes, that's right. Your customer has been in a meeting for, what, a month, 2 or 3 years, and so on. You'll never see that person again. So anyway, so I was really excited, and I make my presentation, and then I'd say, well, what do you want to do? With a great big Cheshire cat smile. And they would say, well, I want to think about it. And I say, okay, great. You think about it, and I'll come back, and we'll have a sale, and life will be good. And I never saw them again. So I realized that my problem was not making calls. I wasn't afraid of the rejection. The problem was closing the sale. And I didn't realize until about that time that there's a specific methodology or process of asking a person to buy without any pressure, without any loss of friendship or anything else. So I began to read and study everything that there was out there on how to close the sale. And soon I was closing more sales and more. Within a year, I was earning 10 times as much as I'd ever earned before. My very first major seminar was 24 techniques for closing the sale, 3 hours long. And countless people told me from the sales seminar, you changed my life. You made me rich. Once I learned how to close sales, here's what happens is if you know you can close the sale, then you're much more aggressive and positive about making the first call because you know it's going to end in the sale. Before, you know that you make the first call, but at the end of it, they're just going to say, let me think it over. Once you become confident at closing the sale, your life changes. Now, what is the key to success in business? It is to make more sales. Make more sales. Let me tell you a story. When I give a seminar, and my average seminar audience for salespeople is about 1,600 people measured this. Sometimes it's 2,000 or 3,000, but the average is 1,600. I'll start off the seminar and I'll say thank you very much for being here. You are in the top 10% of sales professionals and business owners in the world today. How do we know that? It's because only the top 10%, according to all the statistics, come to seminars like this. Only the top 10% read the books and listen to the programs and get up early and work hard and stay later. Only the top 10%. And they're the ones who make 10, 20 times as much as average people. The average salesperson, the average business owner, the average person starts at the very last minute that they possibly can. And when they start, they drink coffee and they talk to their friends and they check their email and they read the newspaper and go on their computer and so on. But not successful people. Successful people start like a race and they hammer hits and they start to work and they work all day long. I remember a salesman told me he got a job with a large sales organization, about 30 people, and he was associating with the junior salespeople, the ones who were hanging around the office and making a couple of calls a day, if that. And he noticed that there were about 5 or 6 top salespeople that were all off by themselves. They came in, they spoke to themselves, they had coffee together, they went out for a lunch together and so on. And so he began to work his way over and ask them questions and ask for their advice. And soon they kind of included him in their circle. And he began to do the things they did. And one of the things that he noticed is when they came to work, they started work immediately. They didn't talk. They didn't have any time. People say, well, have you got a minute? Yes, but not right now. Right now, I've got to get to work. I've got to make this call. I've got to get back to this customer. I've got to get this proposal done. And so he started to do what they did. And within a year, he was one of them. He was one of the top performers in his group. And that's a rule that's so important. If you want to be successful, find out what the top people do and do that over and over again until it becomes automatic. Remember, most of success is habit. You have, they say, form good habits and make them your masters. But forming habits is hard to do. And good habits are hard to form, but easy to live with. Bad habits are easy to form, but hard to live with. So you'll find that successful people are people who have success habits. That is because they use the most important quality of success, which is self-discipline. In self-discipline, they make a decision, I am going to develop this habit. I'll give you an example. Top people, millionaires and billionaires, and I've done all kinds of research over the years, start work, they get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and they immediately exercise to get their body moving. They read in their field to upgrade their skills, and they start work maybe like 8 o'clock and then they hit it all day long. Average people get up at the very last minute, start work at the very last minute, take long coffee breaks and lunches and quit as early as they can. And then they wonder why they're not getting the same results and rewards as the other people who are working non-stop all day long. Now here is a really good thing, and I'm kind of thinking of these things spontaneously, but when you start and finish a task, it makes you happy. Your brain releases a drug called endorphins. And if your brain releases enough endorphins, you develop a positive addiction. That's what they call it in psychology. A positive addiction means that when you start and complete a task, you get a buzz, and it makes you happy. And the happy feeling motivates you to do this again, what it was that got you that feeling of happiness. And pretty soon, it becomes automatic and easy. It's hard at the beginning, and then it becomes automatic and easy. And they say, well, how do you get yourself up and how do you get yourself going? It's very easy. I just think of the results that I'm going to get and the money I'm going to earn and the lifestyle I'm going to have for myself and my family, and that cranks me up. It makes me happy. In fact, I get really impatient with people who waste my time and take me away from doing the things that increase the quality of my life. So what you do is you set very clear goals for what you want and you write them down. Now, I used to give a program for entrepreneurs, for business owners, and I would have about an average of 30 people in my program, and they would come and work with me for one full day of exercises amongst themselves, for every 90 days. And when they came for 90 days, 1 year program, it cost $5,000 to come to my program. And people say, oh, it's a lot of money and I can't afford and everything. So I say, look, I'll make you a deal. And this is my deal, by the way, all the time, is I will give you a 100% money back guarantee. If you do not double your income and double your time off with your family over the course of the next 12 months, that's one session every 3 months, then I'll give you your money back, no cost. I said, would you do that? I said, yes, but won't people cheat you or lie to you? No. Good people who are interested in improving themselves and becoming better, all they want to be is sure that they get what they pay for. So I guarantee if you don't get what you pay for, based on your decision, I'll give you your money back. I gave my coaching program for 7 years. I gave it to more than 1,000 business owners like yourself. I only had one request for the money back. One request in 7 years. And everybody else, they doubled and tripled their income, sometimes in a week, sometimes in a month. As nobody ever complained. After the first session where I prepared them, and I'm going to show you what I had them do, is at the first session, they would come back 3 months later and they would be sparkling. They'd come into the room and there's that great song many years ago, there's a party here tonight, there's a party here tonight. I could tell by your happy faces, there's a party here tonight. Well, that's what they could come back after 30 people get into the room and everybody's shaking hands and talking, how's it going, everything else. And then I would have them go around the room and tell us what happened in the last 90 days. And they would tell stories about I did this and I did this and I got double my income. And it was wonderful to hear it, and it was consistent. It happened 100% of the time. So one of the first things I would do in the first session of the 4-part session is I would say, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here. Let them fill out some forms and introduce themselves to people. We put about 5 people at a round table in the room. And we would divide them up based on income. So some people were earning a minimum of $100,000 a year. Some were earning 100, some 200, some 500. And so we would cluster them at the same income group, because we found very early that if a person is at a table with someone who's making 500,000 and they're only making 100,000, then they kind of just don't communicate well. So we all had them sit with people earning the same amount because they had the same mentality. Anyway, I say, I'm going to introduce you to your new best friend. Your new best friend is this spiral notebook. Now, this spiral notebook costs $1.49, and I'm going to give it to you. And this is what you're going to do. And please pay attention to me, because I'm about to show you how to double and triple your income. Is take this, and this is what we're going to do. And you open it up and write down today's date, and then write down 10 goals that you would like to accomplish in the next 12 months. I always focus on 12-month goals or less. A goal that's longer than 12 months is so far out that it's really not motivational. Some people can work on a 20-year goal, and some people do, but for you, just simply take spiral notebook, write down today's date, and write down 10 goals, but in a special way. The special way is in the present tense. So you don't say, I will double my income in the next year. You say, I earn this amount by the end of this year. So it's always in the present tense. Your subconscious mind can only accept a command if it's in the present tense. So you never say, I will, or use a future tense. It's always the present tense. And you write down 10 goals. And then once you've written 10 goals, and here's an interesting discovery. Whatever you write is going to come true. It's almost like a magic trick. And I couldn't believe it when I first learned about it so many years ago. So I just wrote down my 10 goals. And I remember the first time I did that, I did it on a piece of paper like this, and I lost the piece of paper. But 30 days later, I was sleeping on the floor of a friend's cheap apartment. I had no money. I had a cheap sales job knocking on office doors. And 30 days later, I'd accomplished all 10 goals. I doubled my income. I had my own apartment. I had better clothes. I had a car. I couldn't believe it. It was just almost like a magic trick, and it works all the time. The only thing that is necessary for it to work is for you to work. And what you do is you take it and you write your goals as if they were already true. You write down 10 goals. Okay, that's all. And today's date. Now, then you look at over your goals and you say, if I could achieve any one of these goals within the next 30 days, which one goal would have the greatest positive impact on my life? And you put a circle around that. And you know what it is. It's almost always an income goal, by the way, which is good. Because an income goal forces you to do everything right, forces you to work harder and stay later and get up earlier and so on. So write it down. Now, tomorrow morning, when you get up, you take your workbook like this, and you turn the page, and you write down your 10 goals again, but without looking back at the previous page. You write your goals by memory. This is very important. Some people think this is like a copybook. You just copy them over. No, it's very important that you write down your goals from memory, because the goals will change in order, they will change in description, and your life will change as well. Next morning, get up and do it again. Do this for 1 month, 30 days. Every morning, 7 days a week, get up and write down your 10 most important goals. I promise you this, your life will never be the same. I started to do this. I learned it from reading or something, and I thought, well, give it a try. What does it cost to give it a try? For heaven's sakes, it's a page and a pen. I mean, it's not like we're asking you to sell your soul. Just write down 10 things that you'd like to accomplish in the present tense. And I've never had a person tell me it didn't work. I've taught it all over the world. I've taught it to tens of thousands of people, and every single person comes back and says, it's unbelievable. Because what happens is when you write down a goal, everything you write down is your programming into your subconscious mind. And your subconscious mind then takes that goal and transfers it to your superconscious mind. And your superconscious mind is connected into the entire universe. And it's the seat of the law of attraction. And the law of attraction says that whatever you think about intensely and positively, you attract into your life in the most amazing ways. Actually, the law of attraction is so powerful that if you think about negative things or poor health or financial problems, you will have those. You'll attract them. You'll attract whatever you write down and think about. You're going to set up this force field of energy that starts to attract it into your life. So write down your 10 goals and do it every month for every day for a month and see what happens. I started to do this and my life changed forever. And I've done this all my life. I've got stacks. Here's my current workbook with all my goals written down, as I have rows of these books in my bookshelves. They're unbelievable, unbelievable. You can start poor. You could start as a new immigrant. You could start brand new in an industry. Just write down your 10 goals, and you will be astonished at what happens. So please do it. Now, sometimes I open a seminar and I ask them this question, and everybody in my seminars are entrepreneurs, salespeople, business people like you. And I say, how many people here would like to double their income? And everybody raises their hand. I say, well, good. I'll give you a couple of different ways to double your income over the course of our time together. So let's move on to the workbook. And then people go, oh, wait, we want something now. What can we do right away? I said, all right, I'll give you a way that is 100% absolutely guaranteed to double your income within the next 30 days, maybe even faster. Would you like that? And everybody says, yay. So we've got this wonderful rhythm going on in the room. I say, what I'm going to ask you to do is simply make more calls. According to statistics, the average salesperson makes 2 new calls on new prospects per day. That's the average. Half are above, half are below. Some people make only 1 new call per day. Some people make 1 new call per week. I've had countless people in my different seminars who say, well, I'm so busy, I just can't get out to talk to so many new people. Really, what are you busy doing? well, I'm busy checking my notes and I'm busy reading my materials. And no, the only reason you're alive is to sell. You should be spending 80% of your time selling, 80% of your time talking to people and telling them about your product or service and asking them to buy it, whatever it takes. So I'm going to ask you, just instead of 2, and let us assume that the average here in this room is 2 new prospects per day. I'm going to ask you to call on 4 new prospects per day. Now, how many is that? Well, 2 is 1 every 4 hours. 4 is 1 every 2 hours. Now, is that a lot? I mean, is that going to kill you? Is that going to make you physically exhausted if you call on 1 new person every average 4 hours? Of course not. So just make a decision that I call on a minimum of 4 new people each day to tell them about my product or service. Do that, and I guarantee you, because of the law of averages, which says that some will, some won't, so what, next. And that's what we say in selling. Some will, some won't, so what, next. Is some will buy, some won't buy. Some will be interested, some won't be interested. But because of the law of averages and the law of probabilities, and these are laws, is if you call on twice as many people, you will make twice as many sales. Isn't that correct? And everybody goes, They never even thought of it like that. So I say, if you'll just do that, I promise you, you'll double your income as soon as you start doing it. Just by law. Just like the laws of gravity. Things fall down, sales take place. So people will say, well, that's nonsense. I mean, I've been in sales for 10, 15 years, and don't tell me to just double your income by just increasing the number of people you talk to. I've heard this so many times. I had a gentleman come up to me and he said, he came to another seminar of mine some months later, and he said, I came to that seminar and you told us about doubling your income by doubling the number of people you speak to. I said, yeah. He said, I said to myself, this is pure BS. It's motivational claptrap. This guy doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't understand my market and my products and my competition and all these things. It's just no way. And then I thought, well, what if he's right? It doesn't cost anything to give it a try. So he went out and he kept a careful figure. And this is very important. All top salespeople keep notes on every call they make and what happened. Who did they speak to? What did they say? What was the reaction? What was the time and the date and the place? So if I were to ask you, what did you do 3 months ago on Tuesday in your sales work? You could say, just a second. And you pull out your notes, and there's exactly what you did. You started at this time, you called on this person, you made this call, you made this presentation, you made this sale. It's very important. One of my greatest mottos for success, if you want to become wealthy, is write it down, write it down, write it down. Because whatever you write down, you program into your subconscious mind. And if you learn something, you get some kind of an insight, that goes into your subconscious mind and it's available to you like a mental library. It's always there. So he said, I decided I would prove that you were just full of BS. So I went out and I started tracking and making 4 new calls each day. Within a week, I doubled my income. I couldn't believe it. I've been in my field for 12, 13 years. I doubled my income. Now, I tell you that story because I've heard that story hundreds and hundreds of times. I've get the story in emails and letters and phone calls. People say, I can't believe it. I'm earning more than I ever thought I'd ever earn in my life. And all I did was just use my time more efficiently and spend more time talking to new people. Now, another person told me this. I said, if I could double my income with 4 people, which he did, how about 6? How about 8? And so he began to organize his whole day so that he was spending an hour per customer, and he was making 6 to 8 new calls a day. And within no time at all, he was earning a fortune. He had a beautiful new car. One boy came up to a seminar of mine in Dallas, and he said, I was at your seminar last year, and I followed your advice, and I want to show you something. And can I take you to the airport after the seminar? I said, sure. So afterwards, he said, just wait down here by the roundabout and outside the convention center in Dallas. And so I went there, and he swooped up brand new Mercedes-Benz, four-door, beautiful, brand new $120,000 car. He said, this is what I bought with your advice from last time, this beautiful Mercedes-Benz. And I've heard that and seen that so many times. So you don't have to be a genius to double and triple your income. All you have to do is do what everybody else did to double and triple their income. If you do the same thing, you get the same results. It's not a miracle, but you know something? Only maybe 20% of people will ever take this seriously. One of the things that you'll find in business is the 80-20 rule. And you've heard the 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule says that the top 20% of people, especially in sales and business, earn 80% of the profits. They earn 80% of the profits. The bottom 80% of people share 20% of the profits, and they worry about money all the time. Now, I don't know about you, but I spent years worrying about money all the time, and I didn't worry that I had too much. I worried about money all the time. And so then I learned something that was really great. It's what I call a face slapper, whack. And it said that everyone in the top 20% started in the bottom 20%. Everybody who's at the top today was once at the bottom. And then they did something different. What did they do differently? They wrote down their goals and they made a plan. And they used their time more efficiently and they called on more people. You see, my good friend Dan Sullivan, who's a really, really smart guy, he had this one-liner. He said, all business is marketing business. Whatever business you're in the marketing business. And the only question is, are you any good at marketing? Are you any good at finding new potential customers and converting them into buyers and then converting them into buyers again and so on? So I was making some notes today with regard to business, and I remembered three of the most important points that you'll ever learn, almost like a golden triangle. Number one is called specialization. Is successful people specialize. They don't try to talk to everybody about every product or service. Is they specialize and they carefully identify. They say, who is my ideal customer? Who is the person who is most likely to buy my product or service and pay for it? That's very important. A lot of people will buy your product or service and they're not good payers. So who is the most likely? And you start to think about it. Who have been the best customers in my life so far? You ask other people, what would be the characteristics of the best customers you ever sold to? And you specialize in a particular type of customer. Remember, you are in the marketing business. You're in the customer business. Your job is to make sales to qualified customers. Now, the second part of selling is called differentiation. And this is the most important word in sales, marketing, and success. It's going to determine whether or not you become wealthy, successful, happy, and fulfill all your dreams. Differentiation means that you separate yourself from other companies and other products and services. Nobody buys something unless they are convinced that it is different and better and superior in some way to other products and services that purport to do the same thing. So you have to think, what are my areas of differentiation? And then the most important of all is called your USP, your unique selling proposition. This is the critical factor that determines the success or failure of a salesperson, of a company, a business, a product, anything else, is what is it that you offer that your potential customers want and need and are willing to pay for? And people say, well, it's the price. I mean, you just have to lower the price. They always complain about the price. They only complain about the price because they don't understand that the price is never the reason for buying anything. Nobody buys anything because of the price. Price is important. If there's no comparison, if the competitor's product and your product, as far as the way you've explained it, are the same, there's no difference, well then the price is the factor. Sometimes it's not the price, it's the speed of delivery. I don't know about you, but if you buy products online, sometimes the products are actually manufactured and shipped from China. Other times, for example, with Amazon, I decide to buy a book or a product from Amazon and it arrives the next day. It's the most amazing darn thing because it is shipped from very close by. They have warehouses everywhere and tens of thousands of people. And their goal is they want to make you so happy that if you decide to buy something, you always buy it from Amazon. You don't buy things from distant suppliers and so on and so forth. So the critical thing is people like speed more than anything else, and people would pay a premium to get a product or service fast. So your differentiating factor, your unique selling proposition is really the reason why people buy things. And your job is to emphasize what it is about your product or service that makes it superior. It's faster, it's better, it's cheaper, it's easier to use, it has better guarantees. The richest man in the world, or one of the top three, is a man named Jeff Bezos. And Jeff Bezos, when he started off his business, Amazon, he picked the name Amazon because it was the biggest river in the world. And he wanted his company to have a big name. And he started selling books out of his garage. And what he would do is he would take orders, he would offer the books for 30% off, he would ship them, and they would be delivered in about 7 days. And since most people, if they bought a book at a bookstore, didn't read it the next day or didn't have time to go to bookstores in the first place, they didn't mind the delay. And then he shortened it to delivery in 6 days, delivery in 5 days. Jeff Bezos is famous throughout his company, one of maybe the third richest man in the world, worth billions and billions of dollars, starting with nothing. He's famous for his obsession with customer service, is taking good care of customers. And so whenever there's a meeting within Amazon anywhere, there's always one empty chair. And the empty chair represents the customer. And so when they're talking about what they're going to do, everything is done. How can we make our services better to make our customers happier? And then they sort of look at the empty chair and they say, what do you think? What do you want more of or less of or so on? So they're always thinking, how can we make our customers happier? And happiness for your customers can be the absolute turning point. So they're always thinking of that. Amazon, most amazing darn thing. Amazon, they reckon, is going to be the first $1 trillion company in history. Back in the 90s, Steve Jobs had been thrown out of Amazon because he had a difficult personality, let's put it that way. But he still owned an enormous amount of stock in Amazon. So he went out and he formed Pixar and built a $6 billion company and sold it to Disney. And then they brought in some senior executives from New York, and none of them could turn the company around. And so finally they came and said, how would you like to be a consultant to the company? Just walk around and ask people questions and give us your insights if you see anything that we could do better, because the company was in trouble. And so he did, and he looked around and he talked to people, and he sat in on meetings and so on. And then they came to him and said, we're going to fire the president from New York, and we're going to give the company back to you. And he said, okay. And he came back in as the new president of the company that he originally started. And he said, well, get me some financial statements. Where are we in the market? It turned out that they were 2 months away from bankruptcy. And that's why everybody was abandoning the ship. 2 months away from bankruptcy, and he couldn't believe it. So he started to ask questions. How many products do we have? Well, it turned out they had 104 products. 104 products. They developed the product and put it in the market and developed another product, and then they hired people and staff and marketing and packaging and delivery for each product. But only 4 were making a profit. All the others were draining the company. So he began to have meetings, and he began to say, please give us your suggestions on which products to drop. And of course, this was highly political within the company because everybody there had a vested interest in the products that were failing. And they argued and fought and went back and forth. Finally, they cut them back to 4 products, canceled 100. And here they were, 2 months away from bankruptcy. And so he's got to have some money. Now, this is the most amazing damn story. He said, we've got to have a whole new product line. We've got to have a whole new product. Everybody now has laptop computers. Big companies, Japanese companies, every company. So we've got to have another product. And the only business we've ever been in is computers, Apple computers. So he realized that if he didn't get some cash, the company was toast, as they say. So he phoned up his biggest enemy in high tech was Bill Gates. And he had been insulting Bill Gates and talking him down, and saying that Microsoft is a primitive company and old technology and nowhere near as good as Apple. But he's the only person I know who's got the kind of money that we need. So he called up Bill Gates. He said, Bill, he said, I got a problem. And Bill said, well, what is it? He said, if I don't have some money, cash, I need several $100 million, I'm going to have to go broke. I'm going to close the company. And Bill Gates, and I still get teary when I hear this, Bill Gates said to Steve, he said, Steve, Apple is too important a company to go broke. I will give you the money that you need. He said, well, we'll borrow the money from you. I said, no. He said, I'll buy stock in Apple at its current price, and I will be on the same risk level as you. I'll just have stock. And if we are successful with Apple, then my stock will go up in value. Would you do that? He said, yes, absolutely. So Bill Gates provided him with the money that he needed, and then I said, now we need a product. And they looked around and looked around and looked around and found that the two primary telephone manufacturers, handheld telephone manufacturers, were BlackBerry in Ottawa, and had 49% of the world market for business phones, and Nokia in Europe, they had 49% of the market for regular phones. And so they started to explore the patents that these companies had registered, and found that Nokia had registered a patent for a phone that was very much like the iPhone. And it required a different technology and different marketing and different staff, but they decided to do nothing with it. So they called up Nokia and they said, look, we see you've got patents on this stuff. Would you be interested in licensing them to us? You know, you get a percentage of the sales. And they worked out a deal, and they bought all the Nokia patents, and they built the iPhone on the Nokia patents. And of course, today the iPhone has 1 billion users and is worth hundreds of millions of dollars in cash flow and profits and everything else. And I still remember, because my son Michael, who's running the camera for us today, my son Michael, when he was about 16, he came to me and he said, Dad, you should buy stock in Apple, because this is going to be a big company because of this phone. He had the iPhone. And I told him, now, you don't know anything about investing in the stock market, Michael, so you just let your elders make this kind of decision. If I had followed his advice, I'd be rich today. In fact, I had a couple of friends who took all the money they had in the world, sold their houses, and bought Apple stock when the iPhone came out. And within 5 years, they retired multimillionaires and never had to work again. So what happened was the iPhone was so good and became so popular that they did a survey after the phone had been out for about 5 years. They'd sold several hundred million, and they asked them, based on your experience with the iPhone, are you likely to buy another when the upgrades come out? 90% of Apple iPhone users said, yes, this phone is so great, I will buy anything else they manufacture. Warren Buffett, who refused to invest in technology at all because he said he doesn't understand technology and he doesn't invest in anything that he doesn't understand, at that point realized that if 90% of the customers were going to buy again and again and again, the company was going to grow and grow and grow. So Buffett went in full blast into Apple shares, and he said 2 weeks ago, he said it was one of the very best business decisions he ever made in his life. It was one of the decisions that led to Berkshire Hathaway, his company, increasing their sales by 1,250,000% compounded over the course of Buffett's management. 1,000,000, not 3% or 10% or 20, 1,250,000% growth in the stock. There's countless people who bought Berkshire Hathaway stock way back in the day who are now billionaires and multi-billionaires. They just backed the right horse. Anyway, so that's the key. Now, the key to selling is for you to realize that this is the central focus or function of your business, is to be selling from morning to night. Get up and get going and hit it. And everything has to be focused on selling. The more that you sell, the more every other possibility opens up for you. Without sales, you can't do anything. Now, let me give you a good time here. Oh, geez. How are we doing for time, Michael? Okay. Two things I want to teach you that will make you a millionaire. Number one has to do with goals. And I've taught this now all over the world. I'm the best-selling author in the world in history on goal setting and goal achieving. But here's the big 7. Take a piece of paper. Remember, write it down, write it down, write it down. You take a piece of paper and you write down, what is my most important goal in life today? And you write it down, and it's very important that you write it down so that you are absolutely clear in your own mind what it is. So you say, my number one goal in life is to accomplish this by this date. So let's say you want to double your income, triple your income, make $1 million. It doesn't matter what it is. Remember, there are no unrealistic goals, only unrealistic timelines. It's one of the great rules of life. So therefore, you could write down that you achieve this goal in 5 years. Maybe you'll achieve it in 4, maybe you'll achieve it in 6, but get it on paper, because when you write it on paper, it goes into your subconscious mind. So number 1, write down your goal. Number 2, set a deadline. Is what date do you want to achieve the goal? Number 3, step number 3, is to make it measurable. Is how will you know, or how will other people know that you have achieved this goal? That's number 1, be clear about your goal. Einstein said that your goal must be clear to a 6-year-old child, or it's probably not clear to you. So therefore, write down your goal so it's so simple that a 6-year-old can understand it. Write down your date of completion and make it measurable. Step number 4 is make a list of everything that you can think of to do to achieve the goal. I could do this and I could do that. I could start doing this and stop doing that. Just as you think of new things, and sometimes you'll think of new things for the next few weeks, but as you think of new things, write them down, write them down, write them down. Sometimes just one idea will come to you, and that idea will make you rich. But that'll only happen if you write it down, and the writing triggers your brain. It activates your brain. Step number 5 is organize the list in such a way that you say, what do I do first? What do I do second? What do I do third? What do I do fourth? And then step number 5 is take action on your list right away, that minute, and take action on it every single day. Work on one or more of the items on your list. And number 7 is do something every day that moves you at least one step closer to your goals. So let me repeat this. I've taught this to people who say it's like a miracle. Number 1, decide exactly what you want. Number 2, write it down. Number 3, set a deadline. Number 4, make a list of everything you can think of to do and keep adding to the list as you think of new things. Number 5 is organize the list by value and priority. What's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3? Number 6 is take action on your list and do something every day. And number 7 is take action on your. Number 7 is do something every day that moves you at least one step closer to your goal. Now that little formula of 7 things: decide what you want, write it down, make a list, organize the list, set priorities on the list, start with your most important one, and do something every day. That will change your life forever. But it takes discipline and determination and resolve and everything else. Now, here's the second formula I want to give you, because we're running out of time, and that has to do with high productivity, rapid accomplishment. I am the best-selling author in the world on personal productivity, and I'm going to give you a formula out of 21 formulas in my book. I'm going to give you one. And this formula is so simple, it's almost scary, but it's very powerful. What you do is you ask yourself, start off in the morning, if I could only do, let me go back. The night that you finish work, or the first thing in the morning, make a list of everything that you have to do the following day. Make a list. I have to call this customer, set this, get this done, organize this and so on. Write down everything. Write it down, write it down. In fact, the last thing you do every day should be to make a list of everything you have to do the next day. And if you think of new things, add them to the list. Second step is ask yourself, imagine that you are going to be called out of town for a month and you could only do one thing on your list. Which one activity would have the greatest positive impact on your life? You only do one thing and then you're going to be gone for a month. Which one is it? Now, what average people do, below average people do, is they look at their list and they pick the easiest, the laziest, the least contributory activity, and they do that. And they, since they're not really motivated because they don't care, they piddle away with it, and sometimes the whole day goes by and they never get one darn thing done. So instead, just do one thing. Now, as an aside, there is something I discovered called the law of three. And the law of three, and I put my coaching clients through this, is make a list of everything that you do in the course of a week or a month, or all your activities, and then ask yourself, if you could only do one thing on this list before you were called out of town for a month, which one thing would it be? And put a circle around that. Then ask yourself, if I could only do two things on this list before I was called out of town for a month, what would be number two? Put a circle around that. And then ask, if I could only do three things on this list, which would be the third most important? Put a circle around that. What you'll find is that if you have 20 or 30 things that you do in the course of a week or a month, these three things account for 90% of the value of everything you do. These three things are also the last things that you get to. Then most people then start at the bottom of the list and start doing things that doesn't make it whit of difference if you ever did them at all. So take the big three and say, and by the way, I used to work with IBM as a trainer, and IBM got into serious financial trouble a few years ago, and they brought in a new president, fired everybody at the top, and brought him in with his friends and associates, and they installed the law of three in IBM, multi-billion, had 82% of the world computer market, 82%, and they turned the company around completely within 6 months with this law of three. The law of three will make you rich if you practice it. So the law of three is really important, and then what you do is you take your number one task, and this is the real great insight. Take your number one task and start immediately on that task first thing in the morning and work at it nonstop until it's complete. Don't do anything. Don't talk to people. Don't drink coffee. Don't check your computer or your iPhone. Don't read the paper or go for lunch. What you do is you put everything aside. Close your door if necessary. What I used to do in my office is when I traveled, I pick up these do not disturb signs from the hotel doors and I give them out to everybody. And people will say they're overwhelmed, they have too much to do and everything else. I said, here, put this on your door. And everybody will know that if that's on your door, they don't disturb you because you're busy working, trying to finish a major task. And all the problems of time disappeared in my office. Everybody was happy, everybody was productive, everybody was getting their work done and so on. It's the same thing with you. Get a sign, puts a sign up and say, just basically do not disturb, and then work nonstop until you finish that task. Now, if you will do that, if you'll make a list of everything you do, determine the number 1, 2, and 3, and then start on number 1 and work on it nonstop until it's complete. Now, this is important. Not 95% complete or 96 or 99. It has to be 100% complete. Even if you work till 3 o'clock in the morning, you must complete the task. You must develop the habit of important task completion. Not just task completion, tasks that are of secondary value, but most important task completion. Because, as we said earlier, what you do when you finish a task, it's like running across a finish line first in front of a huge audience. Is when you finish a major task, you get this rush and you feel great about yourself. And you earn the admiration and the respect of everybody around you. So these are some of the keys for success. And the wonderful thing is, as I was talking to a top business owner just a few minutes ago, and he said one of the things that I taught him that changed his life was that whenever you find yourself in a financial problem in business, sell yourself out of it. Sell yourself out of it. And I learned and practiced that many years ago. Sell yourself out. If you're not happy with your financial situation, get up and don't do anything all day long except sell. Call on new customers. Find ways of selling new products and new services. Sell yourself out. That's the key to your success. All successful people put their head down, get better and better at selling, and then sell yourself out. And if you'll do some of these things, then you're going to be extremely successful. You're going to make an enormous amount of money. You're going to achieve all of your goals, and you're going to get better and better and stronger as you do. So as we come to the end, I just want to thank you for, just show me that again, Michael, is I want to thank you for having me as part of the Go Global family. And I thank you guys for bringing me to help these people. And please take notes and then maybe combine people, 2 or 3 people together, and have them work as a team, as a brainstorming team, and work on implementing these ideas and set goals and manage time and focus on major tasks and focus on task completion and start earlier and work harder and stay later. And if you will do those things, you will be doing the things that all successful people have been done since the beginning of the American Republic. People come to this country, and I meet them all the time, with nothing from poor countries. And what they do is they get their feet on the sidewalk and they say, by gum, I can do anything here, because there's no limits except for the limits that you place on your own mind with your own thinking. So thank you very much for being with me today, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you very much, Brian, for the wise words, for the education, for the inspiration, motivation. I really hope that he touched you guys the way he touched me. And guys, if you are, happy with this, if you want to see Brian more often on the Zoom call, but also in the educational platform, please let us know. By the way, his courses on our educational platform are open to purchase now. So if you want to purchase his courses, you can do it. It's all working, and I really highly suggest you to do that, because it's a totally different topic. It's going to be amazing for you guys. And also, if you would like to see Brian more often, maybe even in person, in some leadership training or some big event that we're going to do around the globe, just let us know and we will have them for you. Anyways, thank you very much, brother. It was an amazing Zoom call, and happy to have you with us very soon again. All right, guys, one more last thing and I'll let you guys go. So on Sunday, so in 25th, in 2 days, we have decided to do a very special corporate Zoom call. It's going to be a short Zoom call, maybe 20, 30 minutes max. But it's going to be essential and very important and very exciting. So myself, AK, and Paulo will lead the call, but we also have some surprise guest speakers for you guys who will jump on the call as well. So it's going to be on Sunday, 25th of June, 6 p.m. Dubai time. Normally our calls are 7 p.m. Dubai time, but this one will be 6 p.m. Dubai time. Make sure you, all of your team, all of your prospects, even people that are not with us yet, and you want to make sure they see our company, they're participating in one of our Zoom meetings, to be excited, just invite everyone, and we would be happy to have them on the call. So it's going to be very, very exciting, some exciting news, so do not miss it. Sunday, 25th of June, 6 p.m. Dubai time. Thank you guys very much for being with us in this Zoom call, and see you guys very, very soon.